Okay, let's begin on the second chakra. The second chakra is all about, it's the being center. So in Zen tradition, they work very strongly on the being center. It means it's where your being is rooted. When you die or when you enter the body, your bioenergy comes through the being center. And actually Zen masters found a way to, don't take this in the wrong context. It's not suicide, because they've already gone beyond the body. For an average person, this would be suicide. But they can take a needle and put it right, there's a certain point. It's the direct being center. They know the exact nadi. And they leave the body without pain. But it's not suicide, because they've already broken the life and death process. But if an average person, and actually the honest truth is an average person wouldn't even be able to do it. So if someone was trying to commit suicide, they wouldn't even get the right spot. Because you have to, only when you've mastered the being center, you've gone beyond death, only then can you even have that nadi in your awareness to even. Anyway, so there's literally, it's like a thin needle point, and the being center is about 2 inches below the belly button. Yeah. And about 2 inches above the pelvic floor. That's the being center. Yeah. So this is the sacral, the being center. This center is all about fear. So the first center is all about desire, lust. I'll give 3 words. And remember, don't use this context and don't associate what you understand about fear and anxiety and insecurity. So these are the 3 words I'm going to use. Fear, anxiety, and insecurity. For root chakra, I use lust, desire, greed. So for this chakra, I'm using fear, insecurity, and anxiety. And anxiety is one I added because everyone suffers with it, but they think it's like a medical issue or something. And understand, each chakra controls the hormones and chemicals of your body. So the root of your hormonal and chemical state is the chakra, is the emotion. So if you purify and strengthen the hormonal and chemical physical vessel, you're simultaneously cleaning that chakra. Vice versa, if you go to the root of that emotion and with your will persistence break that engram, then you're going to cleanse that part of the body. Okay. The being center has 100% to do with fear. Fear has multiple levels. Fear of losing name and fame. Fear of losing body parts, injury, disease, fear of damage to near and dear ones. But actually, the stronger fear is fear of losing your identity. That's one of the strongest fears. It's more fearful to lose your identity than to lose a limb. And then the most subtle fear is directly the fear of death. So everyone constantly carries a subtle fear. Constantly. The fear engram's always active until you can break that chakra completely. When you break that chakra, not only do you don't fear death, it's irrelevant. So it's not that, or if a snake comes, it's not that we don't move, but someone who's broken their fear of death, if you check their pulse, it wouldn't go up. They would still move. But the engram isn't active. There's no engram. But the same action. So context is different, action is different. Action may be the same. Someone who has a strong fear engrams, someone who has no fear engrams. Action may look exactly the same. But if you check their perception, where perception is happening, there's no agitation, because someone who's crossed, when the full Kundalini energy goes to your being center, you are beyond death, in the sense that you actually perceive and make decisions from the context that everything's transient. So you actually perceive birth and death. It's not a philosophy. It's not an ideology. It's not a belief system. You just know fear and death is binary. And birth and death is binary. And death has no power over you. So you either suppress your fears or you express your fears. But it's the context on which the action is coming from that is important. The context should be completion, fulfillment, integrity. And I'll link it. When that's your context, whether your action looks like expressing or looks like suppressing, you're not coming from suppression or expression. See, what is suppression of fear? You bottle it in, anxiety. What is expression of fear? Expression of fear is the shivering, you show your fear. What is suppression? Trying to act courageous. So doing things like bungee jumping, or it's not that you can't bungee jump, going on roller coasters. What adrenaline junkie? Adrenaline junkie is nothing but trying to run away from your fears by trying to be courageous. And actually, you can't cross fear without first facing it. Which means there's in Vijnana Bhairava Tantra, Devi is known as Bhairavi. She's referred to as Bhairavi. Bhaira means fear. Bhaira means fear. And Bhairavi means one who, and then so the exact sutra is Bhairavi Rambate. Rambate means flirts, who can flirt with fear. So Bhairavi, the goddess, she's called Bhairavi because she can flirt with fear. So it means you can face the fear as it is without trying to express it or suppress it. Both create incompletions. Both is not integrity. So let me link this to integrity. When you don't honor the word you give to yourself, nor do you close it, again and again and again, part of you sits in you and laughs at you, mocks you. So then you say, this year I'm gonna, New Year's comes, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds. And what happens? You're the little voice in the back. It's that fear is nothing but that little insecurity in the back of your head that says, what are you gonna lose 10, or you're gonna go on this diet? I'll see to it that you're eating pizza tomorrow. Let's see how, that's fear. Fear is the little voice in you that mocks you. So when you want to do something, the part of you laughs at you. Literally half of you or most of you laughs at you. Literally, if your whole being is compromised of 25 personalities, because part of your personality is how you relate with your mother, part of your personality is how you relate with your father, your kids, your spouse, your employees, and then with yourself you're fragmented. When you relate with yourself via your body, it's one way. When you relate with yourself via learning, it's another. So we're so fragmented. When majority of you is out of integrity, the whole thing starts to laugh at you. That's why when you say you're going to do something big, you have this great vision, you have this great purpose, you say you're going to do something, you already know, part of you is laughing. This fellow, I'll see to it that he gets into insecurity, That's literally what the fear pattern does. I'll put you in insecurity and keep you in your comfort zone. Laughs at you. So the part of you that laughs at you is fear. So if you don't honor the word you give to yourself, or you build so many layers of insecurity. Insecurity, understand, life by its nature is change, because time is moving on matter. Time is nothing but subtle matter in movement. So the movement of time creates change. But due to our incompletions, we try to be stable. If we have some pleasure, we want it to be there forever. If we have some pain, we think it's going to be there forever. So we always cognize reality as stable. The reality is that life is constant change. Reality is constantly changing. So trying to be stable, trying to cling to what you conceive as stability, creates tremendous insecurity in you. That insecurity starts to build up as layers and it haunts you. So not being able to face your insecurities and be integrated and get the solution, that leads to extreme ignorance. Basically, trying to be stable when life by its nature is instability is ignorance. The only thing that is stable is being comfortable with change. So if you can break the fear pattern, you become comfortable being uncomfortable. You become stable in instability. Do you understand the paradox? Only if you understand the paradox will you enter into paradise. So these insecurities, these layers and layers of insecurities haunt us. That's the source of anxiety. So if you feel some anxiety, be very clear. Your sacral chakra is completely blocked. And what do? We try to drug it. We try to drug ourselves. Alcohol, drugs, all that is nothing but trying to run away from that constant insecurity reminder. You don't want to face the layers and layers and layers of hypocrisy and insecurity. So you figure, let me just get imbalanced, intoxicate myself for a little while. Food addiction, entertainment, violent entertainment, lust-based entertainment, because that's basically all the entertainment that's available nowadays. So many things. You can get anything which takes you away. Any entertainment is a distraction. Any entertainment. That you not facing you directly is a distraction. And constantly, see, people think meditation is escaping from life. No, meditation is the only thing that makes you face life. Everything we do in the name of trying to get security. See, there's nothing wrong with making money, but making money is not going to bring security. So if insecurity is the context that's driving you to make money, you will always suffer. Something will happen. Because life will always try to teach you that insecurity. Stop trying to cling to this pseudo sense of security. There's nothing wrong with making money, but if it's coming from deep insecurity, be very clear, you will be cheated. Even if you have all the money, you will be that same level of anxiety will be to, how do I maintain it? How do I not get it stolen from me? The same suffering of poverty is the same suffering of a miser. So make money from the right context. I'm complete. Out of this overflowing completion, I want to be creative. money is a resource. Let me make money. And let me do it in a way I enjoy. Over not survival fear. From that context, making money, you'll just constantly be miserable. Constant suffering. Back to integrity. When you honor the words you give to you, you develop inner confidence. When every time you get in that gray area where you give yourself a word and then you break it, you don't honor it and you don't close it, and then you do that again, next thought comes. You say you're going to do something. Remember, each thought is indirectly an expectation. You say you're going to do something, you don't do it. And then you neither close it. Now that's 2 layers of non-integrity. And again, you do that constantly, all day, all day. Then when you really want to do something, there's so many layers of distrust on you. You don't trust you at all. So that part of you which thoroughly laughs at you when you want to do something, your greed, you want to do something, you have the fear mocking you. So the more you bring integrity, now integrity is not enough. You want to have authentic integrity. Because even if your integrity is half-assed, it's not real integrity. So say, okay, I'm going to get up for yoga. What is the context for doing the yoga? To be healthy, to be strong. So you do the yoga in a way which creates that strength and vigor. If you just show up, you're committed to the letter but not the spirit. You're just integrated to fact, not to truth. So you just show up, do the yoga, and you don't want to break your nails. One thing I enjoyed this morning is everyone was doing ferocious yoga. But if you just like show up and you're just like, oh, I don't want to get uncomfortable. I said earlier during the yoga, there's 2 types of pain. There's real pain and then there's laziness pain. Laziness pain is always the fear. Fear gets stored as frozen muscle memory. That's how fear gets stored. When you do the ferocious yoga, you break the muscle memory. You break the fear pain. You break the laziness pain. So fundamentally, I'll boil it down to this. If you're integrated to life, you're authentic. You have authentic integrity. Your integrity is authentic. If even you're just honoring the word you give to yourself, but not the spirit, the higher context behind the word, you will still suffer with fear. So it's not only the word you give to yourself, it's the context. That's why I say make completion your context. Because you will do everything fully. When you live life fully, you are integrated to life. If you don't live life fully, you're integrated to death. It's the full awareness, the completion. That's why if completion is the context behind your integrity, you have to stretch yourself. Life is expansion, constant expansion. Death is contraction. There is no in between. You're either expanding or you're contracting. There's no such thing as, oh, I'm stagnant. Stagnant means contraction. Procrastination means contraction. So you're either expanding or contracting. So authenticity, being integrated authentically, and being authentically integrated tunes you to expansion. You say you're going to do something to yourself, you do it for the reason, something else. When you say you're going to do something, don't rely on that secondary, oh, if I can't do it, I'll drop it. No. That's an emergency. That's if circumstances truly don't allow for it. Out of laziness, if you pull that card, again, you're just doing the letter, not the spirit. So if you say, oh, I'm going to do this, and you realize you can't, because the circumstance really doesn't allow, you're being authentic. Or you can replace an old desire if you replace with a more authentic desire. That also is okay. You can drop the old one and say, oh, because I'm being more authentic. That is also good. But out of incompletion, Out of laziness, what's up? Sit and be quiet. Out of laziness, if you, out of laziness or incompletion, if you decide not to fulfill that desire and you just think, oh, I'll just drop the desire, that you're not really going to drop it fully. It's going to still stay as a gray area. It's going to still stay as like a hangover. So, inability to be authentic to your integrity allows that little jokester inside of you to keep mocking you. Then any vision you have, any purpose, any creativity, you just throw it in the drain. Because that little voice will always torture you. And that little voice just wants you in laziness. It just wants you in procrastination. It just wants you in delusion. There's only one original sin. It's actually guilt. But anyways, the only obstacle in enlightenment is laziness. Not your lust, not your food, not your affection need, nothing. Nothing is not your poverty, not having money, not whether you're overpaid or underpaid, oversexed or undersexed, overpleasured or underpleasured, overpained or underpained, overly social or underly social, which means too much name and fame, not enough name and fame. Nothing is an obstacle, just laziness. Laziness. Because laziness is nothing but worshiping death. You're literally invoking death. Being active, intensely alive from the context of completion. If you're trying to be active from the context of fear or greed, basically you'll burn out. That's not what I'm saying. If you're active from your integrity and your completion, you just express life and expansion. No laziness, tiredness, boredom, depression, disease, none of it can touch you. So, I'm not saying you can't rest. Your body needs to rest. That's different. You be authentic with that. But we constantly try to withdraw from life, and we constantly want to be in that delusory vague, non-integrity, gray zone thinking, and just physically lazy. So, another thing. Say you're integrated and you're authentic to your integrity. But if the context is not completion, it'll also lead to fear. And let me explain. Basically, if you have a goal and you're authentic and you stretch yourself and you fulfill that, what's the first thing we do? Can anyone tell me? We were authentic. We experienced authenticity. We were integrated to our desire and we fulfilled. We got what we wanted. What do we do after that? Celebrate. Not reward, right. Pampering yourself. Pampering yourself is literally the bomb you put under your butt. Because I'll tell you why. Even if one drop of, see, this is Haritaki, this is a cup of nectar, even though it tastes like poison. But one drop of actual poison, you put it in there, makes all this nutrients, the whole thing is poison. You can have a cup of water. If you put a little bit of fluoride or chlorine or something, the whole thing is toxic. Even if 1% of you is not fully integrated, fully authentic, every moment, that only happens if your authenticity is from the context of completion. If your authenticity is any other context other than completion, you'll pamper yourself. And every time you pamper yourself, you're basically starting at square one. You had to build up so much will persistence. You got what you wanted, and then you just wreck yourself. We're programmed with hormonal ups and downs. See, we want love. We know it's our nature. But we wonder why we experience mood swings. Because we think our love should be automatic. No, our innate default, the mood swings, is automatic. True love has to be built with integrity and authenticity. But we don't want to do that. We just want true love to be automatic. That's not how it works. You have to build it with will persistence every moment. Authenticity is constantly stretching yourself. Constantly stretching yourself. So even pampering yourself is the most subtle form of fear and is the most subtle form of destroying yourself. Even pampering yourself, because you had to be authentic to get what you wanted. You got what you wanted. You were highly integrated, highly authentic. But the minute you say, let me pamper myself, it means your context wasn't complete.
What's the difference between that and self-care?
Self-care is being authentic with yourself 24/7. Always choose right over pleasant. Sometimes they'll meet. Always choose authenticity over pleasure. In the name of self-care, we indulge in pleasure and sacrifice authenticity. True self-love, true self-care is being extremely authentic 24/7. Because expansion is life. Even a little bit of even 1% pampering yourself is stopping expansion and flipping the momentum. Who knows? You're going to get the same inspiration again to be authentic and integrated. Who knows? That one time destroying yourself, you literally deflate the balloon. You can be one frequency degree away from enlightenment and completely come back to the bottom and reactivate all your engrams. It happens all the time. You can literally cross all your patterns and you're right there, face to face with enlightenment, and you can pamper yourself and fall right down to worse than you were before you raise yourself. I see this happen all the time. And it's not, see, it seems like you have to be courageous. In Sanskrit, courage is being a dhira. Dhira means being a courageous one. There's two types of courage: outer courage, inner courage. A vira is someone who has outer courage, like a warrior. A dhira is someone who has inner courage. It means courage to face all insecurities. Courage to never give into inauthenticity. Did that answer your question? I can take questions. This one doesn't have such a long...
How do you overcome, maybe this is already identified, but how do you overcome or deal with the need of comfort? Is comfort...
Okay. Remember I said, trying to find stability when life is unstable. Trying to be comfortable when life is constantly changing. All comfort is trying to be stable with pleasure. But by the very nature of time, pleasure cannot be stable. It cannot be eternal. So trying to be comfortable is you trying to distract yourself from yourself. Being comfortable with being constantly uncomfortable is the only way you'll attain the true eternal comfort. So you have to leave the binary comfort. Like I said, choose authenticity over pleasure every time. Never choose pleasure over authenticity. Sometimes they meet. And then eventually being authentic is the greatest pleasure.
So it's a wrong expectation, or it's a misunderstanding.
Constantly
about
trying to
what
be...
our needs are.
Absolutely. We have to recognize and re-strategize our whole life using authenticity as a strategy. Not chasing temporary sense pleasures. That's Maya. That's delusion. Any other questions?
So by pampering, you mean going back to choosing comfort over what you accomplished?
Choosing comfort, choosing pleasure over being authentic, over stress. See, you have an integrated desire. You want to do something, and you do it to the letter and the spirit. And in doing that continuously is is your completion. Constant expansion is completion. Purnatva, Poornatva, is the essence of Upanishads. From completion, this is the principle of the cosmos. The cosmos is that's what Shiva means. The word Shiva means constant expansion. That's your name, so you have to live it, right? Constant expansion means stretching yourself, constantly expanding in all dimensions. Art, music, dance, logic, poetry, everything, constantly expanding yourself. The minute you say, I'm not good at this, I can't do this, you've destroyed yourself in any dimension of your life. You are multi-dimensional, and also you are fulfillment and expansion and energy in all those dimensions. The worst thing school did to us was generalize and put us into categories and say, oh, you're good at science, you're good at math. By your very nature, you're good at everything. But due to comparison, which is relative, which we'll get into later, you start saying, well, he's better than me. According to what scale? In some countries, certain actions are like great. Certain actions are looked down upon. And literally you do the same action in a different country and it's flipped. So you can't say this person's a better musician. This person's a better artist. This person's better looking. What's beauty? It's relative. You have an infinite amount of people in front of you, you have infinite amount of people behind you, but that's getting into comparison, which is the fifth chakra. So constantly stretching yourself. Never pampering yourself. See, pampering yourself, I don't mean like don't take care of your basic needs. That's being integrated, that's being authentic. I don't mean in that context. Yeah, I mean yes, indulging. Indulging in the sense of you can enjoy yourself when authenticity and pleasure meet. And it does, all the time. Like it's not easy to get up early and do yoga. But that feeling you feel after. And you enjoy your day. You truly enjoy your day because you conquered yourself. Any other questions?
Just to summarize, could we say chakra 1 lust, chakra 2 fear?
Yeah, in essence.
Wow, and usually they teach it the opposite.
They do, and I'll give you some context. It's actually totally misunderstood. Muladhara. Muladhara is 4 petals. Those are the 4 stages that I was telling you about. Getting to know yourself, getting to know the other, friendliness, getting to know the opposite gender, romance, and getting to know the existence, being in union with the existence. Muladhara is 4 chakras. Complete misunderstanding. And also, the glands most rooted, the lowest gland you have is your sexual glands. They're not your adrenal glands or your spleen. Your adrenal and your spleen releases adrenaline. That's fear. Those glands are higher than your reproductive glands. So right there, I just gave you 2 verifications that whatever you learned before is inauthentic. And so here's the thing. It's not about whether you like that or not, it doesn't matter. Understand the thought current. It doesn't matter whether you think one is above or one is below. Who cares? Because actually all 7 chakras are gateways into bliss, into oneness. It's not that one chakra is better than the other, but just understand the context. But here's the thing. It's not enough to just understand this as a metaphysical type of thing. No. Very practically, every thought, live it to the context with action. This is so practical. Stretch yourself with authenticity. There's nothing impractical, I'm telling you. Face your fears. All right, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to face our fears with this meditation. Okay, very, very interesting meditation, very powerful meditation. It's going to be a 2-step process. First step, you're going to exhale completely and hold your breath. This is going to clear this is going to send Kundalini energy into your Swadhisthana and clear it completely. And you're going to visualize all your fears. You're going to have your eyes closed. Do not open your eyes. Have your eyes closed. So you're going to exhale, hold the lungs empty. When you can't hold anymore, inhale, and again exhale and hold the lungs empty. You'll feel that suffocation. The kumbhak after the exhale opens up all the fear engrams. Kumbhak after the inhale, kumbhak means breath retention. Breath retention after the inhale opens up all the desire engrams. We're basically, our root patterns is nothing but fear and greed. But understand, all your root trauma, your root pattern is always fear. Because greed doesn't become a pattern in you till after physical maturity. So fear is actually what creates greed. We're born from pure greed, but perverted greed doesn't come till fear is inserted. So fear only can be your root pattern. And like I said, fear of death is the most subtle form of fear. When we're not authentic naturally, you don't stretch yourself. You're not integrated to life. You're integrated to death. That's the practical understanding. But just so you understand on a subtle level, this body has died many times. So that memory of death, because the death has always happened against our will, from the context of incompletion, it leaves a very deep imprint. So innately, all our fears boil down to the fear of death. Whether it's the fear of a snake or the fear of getting robbed, or it all boils down to the fear of death, fundamentally. So I'm going to ask you in the first segment of the visualization, just visualize all the things you're practically scared of. And in the second part, I'll lead you through a death process. So a few more things. This is not contemplating suicide. Be very clear. Contemplating suicide is actually you're not even courageous at all. You're simply, you're not facing your fears by committing suicide. Actually, let me just tell you right now. Suicide is the worst sin you can do to your own soul. Because you're using your will directly against yourself. Directly against yourself. The same suffering, I'm just telling you, it's a cosmic legal opinion. If you can share this with others, if it inspires you. I know none of you guys are suicidal, but people need to be given this context. They think that their existence is oblivion and that when they die, they just turn off. So they're actually trying to escape. The extreme of fear is suicide. You're trying to escape from life completely. That is not courage. That's actually the most cowardice thing you can do is suicide. So facing your fears and suicide are literally the opposite. The opposite end of the spectrum. Anyone who commits suicide, that same suffering gets multiplied when they leave the body. Because your existence does not end with this physical body. And only when you break your fear patterns will you even be able to perceive this. Life and death. Inhale, exhale. Sunrise, sunset. Cold and hot. Everything's on that binary circuit. So if you think you're just going to turn off when you waking state, dream state, sleep. Your life and death is nothing but a long waking and dream. When you go to sleep at night, that's a short-term death. When you wake up in the morning that's a short-term life. Your whole life is condensed into one day. Your whole death is condensed into one sleep. One's a micro, one's a macro. So when you're actually dying, your whole life looks like a dream, a quick dream. When you're, same way you can be in a dream and experience the spectrum of your whole life. You can be a kid, and then you can be a middle age, and you can be an old age. In just one night's dream, you can go through 100 years. Same way in 100 years, it feels like a one night's dream. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna face our fears directly. Only when, see, your visualization is linked to your emotional body. This is a detox. So what you're doing is you have so many suppressed fears. So many suppressed fears sitting in your Muladhara. See, I gave you the knowledge on how to go beyond fear. Authenticity